And now I'm going to talk about the grand prize winner gratitude journal, the GPW gratitude journal, because I consider us all grand prize winners just because our ancestry, those 6,000 generations, or even just the more recent 33 generations, had to work out perfectly. One in infinity chance that any of our physical bodies would be here right now to have this incredible soul. So I think we're all grand prize winners. And this is the grand prize winner gratitude journal. Now, you've likely heard of a gratitude journal before, but this is a grand prize winner with a twist, or the gratitude journal with a twist, but it's even more than that. This is an incredible version that will help us to create the chemicals in our bodies on a consistent basis that will bring not only gratitude but other levels of joy. Without question, is very helpful for adults and for teachers and children as well if they can get into a habit or at least a couple days a week. So first, I'm going to talk about the chemicals of the body that are created of the body, the positive dose chemicals, and that's part of the reason why we've got this poster in the background. So right here we have four primary chemicals that are the chemicals that bring us happy, positive thoughts, all right, and feelings and emotions and experiences. And when we're in a higher state with these chemicals flowing through our bodies, then what happens is we're more likely to take action. We're more likely to be happy. We're more likely to do positive things based in contribution, based on just the neurochemistry in our brain and then the chemistry of our bodies. So dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. All right. So dopamine, that is the achievement chemical. So when we do something and it's positive and we give ourselves credit for it, we're not full of worthiness issues or fear or ego. And ego, you probably still can feel some dopamine. But with the other ones, when we're having worthiness issues, we can accomplish something, but we don't feel it. All right. So, but if we do something and we're happy about it and we really, have the right to pat ourselves on the back or just feel good about it, then that's dopamine. So yes, I did it. Just by doing that right there, my body's linked up that I have dopamine being created in my brain right now and it's going through just by kind of the Pavlov's dog thing in part, but just when you feel that level of accomplishment, that creates dopamine. All right. And oxytocin is the feeling of love. So if I can just sit here right now and I can have a feeling of love for my creator, for significant other, for family members, for friends, for pets, for nature, for any of those things, if you focus on those for just a few seconds and really appreciate them and really love them, then that creates oxytocin. Oxytocin is being created in my brain right now. That's all we need to do. Another wonderful chemical. Then we go to serotonin. Serotonin is the gratitude chemical. So it's also known as the happy chemical and a couple other things. But when we're really grateful, right now I am creating serotonin in my body. And then endorphins come through singing and laughter, okay? But they really come through more than anything is exercise. Endorphins actually, when we're exercising at a high level and we can sustain it, our body still thinks, wait a minute, we're working pretty hard right now. We should be in some pain. And so it shoots off the endorphins. But when we train our bodies to a level that we can handle it, then we're feeling fine, but our body's shooting off these chemicals anyway. And so endorphins are the other incredible primary chemical. So dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And so what the GPW Grand Prize Winner Gratitude Journal does is not only like in maybe another gratitude journal that you've heard of where you list things you're grateful for, we want to list things we're grateful for, but also at the same time activate the chemicals of the brain and body. Okay, so the way that we do that is with the gratitude journal. One of those things could be for gratitude, something that we're absolutely grateful for. But I do them, and that would be serotonin. But I do them. I do my GPW, my Grand Prize Winner Gratitude Journal on a daily basis. That day, at the end of the day, you can do the journal in the morning or the afternoon. I kind of do mine throughout the course of the day because I have a computer nearby. And whenever something strikes me, then I put it in my Grand Prize Winner Gratitude Journal. I do it in this format, the DOSE format. It doesn't have to be, but it's just the letters and they spell a word. And so that's the order that I put them in. But they could be in any order of these four. It can go in any direction that you want to with some basic precepts to it. So for me, I have on mine, you could have one thing for dopamine, one thing for oxytocin, another thing you're grateful for serotonin, and for endorphins, those four. On mine, I go DDDOSE because usually there's at least 3 things that I want to list that I accomplished that day. So I combine those 3 things where something I achieved, all right? So you write that down, those 3 things that you achieved, or just one for dopamine. And then one for oxytocin, an experience that day that I felt tremendous love about in one of those 4 or 5 areas, all right? In terms of creator, in terms of self, in terms of those around us that we love, in terms of pets, in terms of the nature that's all around us. So one of those things I'll really focus on, maybe I've done it already and then I just remember when I did it, or maybe I'm like, oh, I haven't done this yet. So I'm going to spend 60 seconds in the state of love. All right. So this is pretty cool. It's a reminder to get back to these states, right? So we do that for oxytocin, which is the O, and that's love. S is the serotonin, and that's more pure gratitude. Okay. So something that I feel grateful for that day. And that's pretty easy for me because I focus on gratitude all day long. And then the other one would be endorphin. So hopefully for us, that will be some exercise that we did. But on that one, we can kind of, oh my goodness, I didn't do that. Then in that case, what I'll do is I will either, again, oh man, I didn't do this today. I will either start singing because that will create endorphins, or I will start laughing. And as you may have heard before, even if it's fake laughter, and I'm not going to do it now, I would if there were a room full of us, but even fake laughter will lead very quickly to real laughter because it's just silly. And so just to get in the habit to retrain our bodies as adults, some adults laugh easily. And as we know, that is one of the best. We love people that laugh easily. There can be a very difficult situation. Other people are stressed and they're laughing about it. So it's a really good skill to redevelop that we had when we were younger as we get older. So now that we have these activities, events, magic moments in our life written down, now we go back over it. All right, just briefly. So we take a look and we look at the events, the 1 or 3 events for dopamine. And so each one, we're going to feel that dopamine when we wrote it out or typed it out, that created dopamine. And now we're going to go back just briefly, read it again. We're going to feel that dopamine. We're going to feel that experience. And then we're going to be grateful for that experience. All right. So now we're creating both dopamine and in that experience, serotonin. We're feeling both gratitude and the dopamine of accomplishment. And then we'll go all three of those dopamine experiences. And then we go to the oxytocin scenario. And so we're going to feel that love again. And now we're going to be grateful for the chance, for the experience, for the opportunity to feel that love. So now we're feeling both oxytocin and serotonin in that moment. Then we're going to go to the straight gratitude moment, and we're going to feel grateful for it. And then we're going to feel grateful just that we have the opportunity to be grateful for it. So we're getting a lot of serotonin going on here, as you can see. And then finally, it's the endorphins. So whether it's the ability to laugh or the ability to sing, or we did exercise in some capacity earlier in the day, we really got those endorphins going. Whatever the capacity, we're going to be grateful for singing, the ability to sing, grateful for the ability to laugh, or really grateful that we exercise. And again, we can feel some dopamine at that point as well because we did it. We accomplished that. So as you can see with the Grand Prize Winner Gratitude Journal, it hits all these different chemicals. And it trains us in a way. It gets us in the habit to, whenever there's a moment during the course of the day, again, for me, I've got a computer nearby. And so whenever something happens that's positive, there'll be many D's on my list on occasion. Many of the dopamine scenarios. I might have 6 or 8 on a day. And there could definitely be more than that. but I will list not just one or three, but sometimes more. At least one though, so you can at least feel that feeling of dopamine every day. But you get yourself in the habit of now you catch yourself doing things right. Whenever there's something that's positive during the course of the day, even if you're not near a computer to type it out, at least your brain is going into that place. And so by doing the GPW gratitude journal each day, logging it by hand or on a computer, we get ourselves in the habit of catching ourselves when we're doing things right. We're activating all these chemicals, and that is so huge because we don't give ourselves enough credit for the things that are great in our lives. And if we can focus on those more often and create those chemicals more often, then we're going to be in a higher state consistently. And that is the beauty and the joy of the GPW gratitude journal. Get in the habit of this. They say like the 20 days, the 30 days, and that's about how long it takes for the new neural connections to be created in the brain to create the positive habits that can stay with us for a lifetime. And obviously, I'm all about the gratitude, and I love this. I love the gratitude journal because the GPW journal, because it allows us to get in that habit on a daily basis to catch ourselves doing things right. And all of a sudden now our body's just creating the cascade of chemicals. And now once we've been doing the gratitude journal for a day or a week or a month, but even just a couple days, once we do that, then when we are in a difficult scenario, either at school or at home, or as a teacher or a parent, what happens is once we have these stressful scenarios and we can get a moment to take a breath, even during the course of the day, again, try to get away from those chemicals, and we can learn how to do that as well. And then our brain now has this gear. It has this gear of gratitude. And so we could be outside on the playground for a moment quietly, or maybe in a teacher's lounge, or even at home. And if we can just take a couple deep breaths, recenter ourselves, now one of the places our brain is going to go to automatically, as much as anything else, it's going to go towards gratitude. It's going to go towards gratitude. It's going to go towards gratitude. So even at that point, if we're not writing something down, our brain is going to want to get there. It's going to need to get past the chemicals. We want to shake it out, go for a walk, take some deep breaths. And then once we're on autopilot, by doing this for a period of time, it can absolutely help us to get through our days at school, not just get through our days, but to love them and to appreciate them to a much higher level. One of the things that I think that I do a pretty good job at, just because I practice it so much, and students and teachers and parents can get pretty good at it as well, because whatever we focus on, we get good at. But I do have the ability to get to a state of extreme gratitude very quickly because I've studied it. I've studied the science, the physicality of this incredible universe, just seeking out reasons to be grateful for the majesty of how everything fits together so perfectly. I've mined the beauty of this universe, the science and the spirituality, for the most magnificent aspects, just so I can feel grateful and gratitude for them. So some of the things that I think about regularly, which are just so common for the average person, but the water that we drink, the hydrogen in our water is 13.8 billion years old. The hydrogen was created one time, that was in the Big Bang. And the oxygen in that water, that's about at least 4.5 billion years old, because the other elements in the periodic table that we see in science class, those are created in stars. Those are built in stars where the hydrogen is squeezed really tight together. This is what our star is doing right now. Our star right now is taking hydrogen, squeezing it together, turning it into helium, and byproducts are neutrinos and light and heat. And that's what our star is doing right now. It's magnificent. And you've got neutrinos that are just flying through you. Billions of those are going through you right now. And so, but our star it's not big enough. It can't create enough pressure and heat to create anything beyond helium. But other stars, bigger stars, can. And that's how we can fill out much of the periodic table. Also, other parts, supernova explosion, can create some of the other elements further down, along with neutron stars crashing together. Just amazing to create these other elements. But oxygen, our star cannot create the oxygen in our healthy green lemon water. That's created by different stars who knows how many millions of light years away. And what happened is one of those stars created other elements, and then it blew up and exploded, and it sent oxygen out in our direction before our star was a star, just there were gases here. And those gases eventually mixed together, got enough the hydrogen gas, big enough cloud, enough gravity that even gas could create, that it squished together, burst to life with that pressure, which turned to heat, and then our star was born. And in our area was this water that got here from who knows where in our galaxy. And it's so incredible just to think when we're drinking that glass of water that hydrogen is 13.8 billion years old and the water is 4.5 billion years old. Just think of the wisdom just in a glass of water. So that's something that I focus on, so I can get very excited just on something about a glass of water, all right? I focus very closely on our senses. We've got these senses, our vision. That's pretty incredible that this universe is designed in a way that we can see things and that we can hear things. So I focus on things that I can hear, and I'm grateful for that. I focus on the things that we can touch, and I'm grateful for that, things that we can taste. Not so much of the taste, because we don't want to get too excited about taste, but definitely on things that we can taste, the majesty of taste, as well as smells, all right? So it's just so magnificent. So I feel gratitude for our senses and the systems of the body, the 11 systems of the body. Okay, the circulatory system with our heart. Oh my gosh, amazing, that system. The genius behind the knowledge that built that system instantaneously. It's just brilliant. Our lungs, the respiratory system. Oh my gosh, it's just amazing to take a deep breath and to feel so grateful for that system. Okay, the systems of our digestive system. All right. Incredible. It's amazing. Our immune system, our reproductive system. We've got all of these incredible systems of the body, and I literally take time just to be grateful for that, for the physical body, the skin, the bones, the muscles, 3 other parts of the systems of our body. Just, we're so lucky to have everything that we have. And when we're grateful for just the basis of things, we're grateful for the fact that everything is made up of these atoms, and that these atoms have rules. Who made the rule that 2 hydrogen atoms, if you squish them together, they create helium and heat and light and neutrinos? Who came up with that brilliant idea, and that's the building blocks for everything in the universe? And when you can be grateful for an atom of hydrogen, okay, if you can be grateful for something that instrumental, but really that basic, that something we can't even see, but it's physical, it's real. If you can find ways to be grateful for things that basic, then oh my gosh, will that elevate the state? Will that create different chemicals in the body, like dopamine, figuring it out, oxytocin, because you love the fact that something created those elements, gratitude because they were created, and endorphins because it gives you so much inspiration that you go out and exercise. So you get all 4 of those. Just from something as basic as an atom of hydrogen, then that's the type of key that can help us to be happy, consistently happy, leading to fulfillment. And while we're in the classroom, if we can be in that state, then if something comes and knocks us off, it might bring us down to here. But if we're lower and we get hit and it brings us down to the ground, then that's tough to take. But when we're consistently in a higher state, because we're grateful for the air around us, and we think about it, we focus on it, then life, school, and our eternities can be so much more enriching. Another amazing scenario is the human body, which has between 30 and 50 trillion cells. Each of those cells has 100 trillion atoms. Just a gift that's been given to. We didn't do anything to earn those atoms. All those coming together perfectly to create our bodies. And then we've got the systems of the body and how those work together just perfectly. Just a brilliant, brilliant design. And so whenever there's a difficulty, if we can get ourselves in the habit, in school or outside of school, to be able to get as broad as possible, to realize For example, we've got all these atoms that have been given to us. What a gift. The size of this universe. When we compare ourselves and our issue with the size of the universe, then that changes the perspective. It changes the chemicals that we got going through our body. It reduces the cortisol and adrenaline when we notice that. When we think about the fact of our ancestry, and there's really a 1 in infinity chance that our physical bodies would even come into existence. When we think of the fact that, in terms of our soul, our specific soul, a focused moment was taken to create our focused soul. What an incredible gift. When we compare any difficulties we have with the fact that we've been given the gift of eternity, 13.8 billion years, and then another 13.8, and then another 13.8. When we compare our difficulties to that, our problems don't really seem like that big of a deal. When we compare our difficulties with the fact that there was a speck and all matter and energy was together in that speck and we're all connected. But when we think of everything starting from that, our problems don't seem like a big deal. When we think that something had to create that speck and program all these atoms and everything else, the systems of the body eventually to be a part of the scenario of this universe. When we compare our difficulties to that, they're not that big of a deal. Whatever that was that created this incredible universe, the genius of that. But the law of conservation of energy says matter is neither created nor destroyed. It only changes form. So how can there be anything to start off? Just from the human mind, if you think about it enough, it's like it's not possible. Obviously, we're here, but it's not possible for anything to exist. And whatever created everything, how did that get there? When we compare our difficulties to the fact that how can anything exist? And the miracle in terms of the human mind, now whatever created everything's like, yeah, I got this. But how did that get there? And to my mind, that is the mother of miracles, that anything exists, that there really perhaps in the, not spiritually, but in the mind of a human, how can there be anything? You got to start with something. And we think about that when we're young, a time or two, and we just forget about it because it's too hard of a thought perhaps, or just too big of a thought, or we get distractions, bigger things to do. But I think about that every single day. How is there anything? How is there anything? You start with nothing, and that nothing, something came out of nothing to create everything. So if we compare that majesty with the joy of existence, with the tiny little sliver of our existence relative to everything, and then the tiny little sliver of that little sliver of this difficulty that we're having today at school or at home or while teaching. If we can compare those things and really get in the habit of taking a broader view, then these difficulties that we have on a consistent basis, they really can start to float away. They can start to diminish because we realize we're so incredibly much more than the difficulties that we're having in the moment. There's so many things that if we just compare our difficulties to whatever these other 6 or 7 scenarios I just mentioned, our difficulties don't seem like that big of a deal. Sometimes they really are, especially if we're full of physical pain. That's an example. It's really difficult to overcome that and have these broader thoughts. But if we focus enough, then most of the time we can really reduce the intensity of whatever emotion we're experiencing in the moment, get into these chemicals and away from the cortisol, away from the adrenaline. Now we're in a higher state, and now any difficulty that we're having at home or at school or elsewhere in the world is much more easy, much more manageable, and it leads to a much more fulfilling existence. To help us along the road to that much more fulfilling existence, let's all right now take about 5 minutes to create our own entry in our GPW Grand Prize Winner Gratitude Journal. So we're going to do that right now in that format that we talked about previously. So the DOSE format or the DDDOSE format. So we're going to take a couple moments right now to get those great emotions, those great chemicals flowing. So something that we've accomplished can be today, recently, or today, where we feel dopamine, where we feel accomplishment. So we'll write 1 to 3 of those scenarios down. Then we'll go to the O, an experience of love recently, either for self, for others, for a significant other, for nature, for a creator. Then we'll go to the S for gratitude, something we really feel gratitude, like all these opportunities for these different presentations that are available, perhaps. And then E for endorphins, and that can be exercise. But if we haven't done that recently, we can do it with laughter. We can create some laughter right now, or we can do some singing as well to create the endorphins. So get the DOSE, get those incredible emotions flowing, and then go back and feel gratitude. Now, the gratitude journal portion of it, and feel gratitude for each of those, the D's, the O, the S, and the E. Knock that out, and we will see you in the final segment.